Okay. As we read these, I'll try to break down concepts that I understand, and we'll look at things we don't understand. I'll probably just try to explain paragraph by paragraph, okay? For why these things are important, my U.S. history knowledge is not that great. Anything that I learned before this year, actually, we'll just say is not that great. But I believe there was a constitutional convention in the United States where a constitution was drafted with the intention of creating a strong federal government that would be more able to govern, basically, than what we had prior to that, which was the Articles of Confederation. A lot of people attended these constitutional conventions, and then the convention, and then afterwards, the goal was you needed all the states to ratify. Well, not all of them. You only needed, what did I say, 9 of them, to ratify the Constitution, saying, okay, fine, we'll all be part of a bigger country, basically. And part of the people that were at, or some of the people that were at that constitutional convention are the authors of a lot of these Federalist Papers. The reason why what they write in the Federalist Papers is important is twofold. One reason can be important, and it's what everybody cites, but I actually think it's the minor reason. And then there's a second, incredibly important reason, okay? The first reason that people cite is because it gives you some insight into what they felt and what they thought and what their intention was when they were writing the Constitution. This is like interesting, I think, to know. It's like, okay, cool. And it's what usually people say, don't you want to know what they thought when they wrote it? The second point that I think is far more interesting is that the federal government that we have in the United States and the way that our government is formed, okay, was not by random chance and not by organic evolution out of pre-existing structures. It was a bunch of people that came together that studied the prior governments, the prior republics, the prior democracies, and they saw what worked and they saw what didn't work. And from these ideas, they tried to put together a government that kept like the strongest parts of a strong and vigorous king and executive, and the strongest parts of like a debating republic that represents the people, and the strongest parts of like of all these different things to put together a government that worked as effectively as possible. Something that was like powerful but still guaranteed individual rights. Something that could function as a federal government without infringing on the state's ability to operate right. Nothing in our government is there randomly or by chance. And whatever lessons from history these guys learned, in the 18th century are still there for us to learn. It's not like we've discovered or radically revamped our view of how, the Romans or the Greeks or, the British governed or whatever, or at least that's my understanding is we haven't. So it's good to, even not as like a U.S. history course, it's just good to understand like, oh, these are how other governments have functioned. These are why things are done as they are in our government. It's not random. There's reasons why. But yeah. Okay. To the people of the state of New York, after an unequivocal experience of the inefficiency of the subsisting federal government, you are called upon to deliberate on a new constitution for the United States of America. The subject speaks its own importance, comprehending in its consequences nothing less than the existence of the Union, the safety and welfare of the parts of which it is composed, the fate of an empire in many respects, the most interesting in the world. This is a very, also, keep in mind when this is being written, this is a very presumptuous statement because the United States means fuck all to the world right now. It's a colony in the Americas. They had a big Revolutionary War that a bunch of other people got drowned. This is a pretty presumptuous statement, right? Who the fuck are you? America? Okay. It has been frequently remarked that it seems to have been reserved to the people of this country by their conduct and example to decide the important question of whether societies of men are really capable or not of establishing good government from reflection and choice, or whether they are forever destined to depend for their political constitutions on accident and force. Oh my God. Damn, it feels like I pre-read this. But yes, so they're coming together to form an explicit government, not just like randomly like, oh, well, this guy's a king or these guys are nobles and this is kind of what they're doing. It's not how we're doing, right? It's like, can we come together and think up? Can we theory craft the perfect government, right? Can we theory craft a really good government? If there be any truth in the remark, the crisis at which we are arrived may with propriety be regarded as the era in which that decision is to be made, and a wrong decision of the part we shall act may, in this view, deserve to be considered as the general misfortune of mankind. If we fuck up, maybe this is the only time somebody can sit down and make a whole government, and if we fuck it up, no one's going to do it in the future. And they did. We did make a good government. We were the world leader for a long time, until maybe 5 days ago. This idea will add the inducements of philanthropy to those of patriotism, to heighten the solicitude which all considerate and good men must feel for the event. basically we should all be interested, I think, in the outcome of this, right? Happy will it be if our choice should be directed by a judicious estimate of our true interests, unperplexed and unbiased by considerations not connected with the public good. We're doing these things not to make an aristocracy? And that's an aristocratic government, not an oligarchy, not a monarchy, but something for the public good, for the public. The public. But this is a thing more ardently to be wished than seriously to be expected. The plan offered to our deliberations affects too many particular interests, innovates upon too many local institutions, not to involve in its discussion a variety of objects foreign to its merits, and of views, passions, and prejudices little favorable to the discovery of truth. Man, what a guy. This is a thing more ardently to be wished than seriously to be expected. It takes a lot of work to build a good government, right? Like, are you really going to make, like, you want to make a government that represents the public interests of all the different people? Like, yeah, keep dreaming, dipshit. Like, you really expect this to ever happen? Is essentially what he's saying here, right? There's way too many interests involved. You're trying to change way too many local institutions. Like, there's no, like, you really think that these types of discussion will lead you to the discovery of truth? Huh, interesting. Among the most formidable of the obstacles which the new Constitution will have to encounter may readily be distinguished the obvious interest of a certain class of men in every state, in every state to resist all changes which may hazard a diminution of the power, emolument, and consequence of the offices they hold under the state establishments, and the perverted ambition of another class of men who will either hope to aggrandize themselves by the confusions of their country, or will flatter themselves with fairer prospects of elevation from the subdivision of the empire into several partial confederacies than from its union under one government, right? So, what's going to fuck us up when we're trying to make a new constitution, right? Well, obviously, it's going to be the people who are already holding a lot of power who are going to have to give some of that power up, right? Which you do. As a state, you're going to have to give some power up to a new federal government. That's why a lot of people don't want to join a federal government. Fuck you. You're going to come and, wow, we just fought a revolutionary war against the King Britain, and now you want to make a king federal government? What a horrible idea, right? Some people would have to give up power. Other people might be capitalizing on the separation of our states into different things, and they can have, because of the subdivision of the empire into several partial confederacies, they might have more power than they would under a unionized federal government. It is not, however, my design to dwell upon observations of this nature. I am well aware that it would be disingenuous to resolve indiscriminately the opposition of any set of men, merely because their situations might subject them to suspicion, into interested or ambitious views. He's not just trying to write people's opinions off immediately, right? It would be disingenuous to try to say immediately, oh, obviously you're against me, right? Oh, so he's saying I have to argue for this, right? He's saying, listen, you obviously want to hold on to your power. Obviously, you're interested in that. But he's saying, but listen, I understand that. I'm not going to discount your arguments just because of that, right? I'm going to engage with the subject matter. We'll engage with the material, right? Candor will oblige us to admit that even such men may be actuated by upright intentions, and it cannot be doubted that much of the opposition which has made its appearance, or may hereafter make its appearance, will spring from sources, blameless at least, if not respectable, the honest errors of minds led astray by preconceived jealousies and fears. People might have like good incentives to be evil, but they also could just be like wrong. They could be fucked up. They might be incorrect about things. People make mistakes. Even people who are predisposed to gain from not having a federal government could still make really good arguments for why we wouldn't have a federal government. So numerous indeed and so powerful are the causes which serve to give a false bias to the judgment that we, upon many occasions, see wise and good men on the wrong as well as on the right side of questions of the first magnitude to society. This circumstance, if duly attended to, would furnish a lesson of moderation to those who are ever so much persuaded of their being in the right in any controversy. So listen, anybody can fuck up, and maybe that means you should like chill a little bit, have a little bit less conviction, be a little bit less 100% sure on a particular thing, because anybody can make a mistake. And a further reason for caution in this respect might be drawn from the reflection that we are not always sure that those who advocate the truth are influenced by purer principles than their antagonists. Different people who are both influenced by good things can come to different conclusions, right? Ambition, avarice, personal animosity, party opposition, and many other motives not more laudable than these are apt to operate as well upon those who support as those who oppose the right side of a question. You can be right for the wrong reasons. Were there not even these inducements to moderation, nothing could be more ill-judged than that intolerant spirit which has, at all times, characterized political parties. One thing we'll probably find when reading through these, I don't remember Hamilton particularly, but a lot of the founding fathers were not fans of political parties. But for in politics, as in religion, it is equally absurd to aim at making proselytes by fire and sword. Heresies in either can rarely be cured by persecution. You have to change people's minds by arguing against them, not by killing them, right? And yet, however just these sentiments will be allowed to be, and yet, however just these sentiments will be allowed to be, we have already sufficient indications that it will happen in this, as in all former cases of great national discussion. A torrent of angry and malignant passions will be let loose. To judge from the conduct of the opposite parties, we shall be led to conclude that they will mutually hope to evince the justness of their opinions, and to increase the number of their converts by the loudness of their declamations and the bitterness of their invectives. An enlightened zeal for the energy and efficiency of government will be stigmatized as the offspring of a temper fond of despotic power and hostile to the principles of liberty. An over-scrupulous jealousy of danger to the rights of the people, which is more commonly the fault of the head than of the heart, will be represented as mere pretense and artifice, the stale bait for popularity at the expense of the public good. Everybody's basically going to be so impassioned about these arguments that it's going to be very easy to conclude the other side is acting with evil, basically, I guess is what. It will be forgotten, on the one hand, that jealousy is the usual concomitant of love, and that the noble enthusiasm of liberty is apt to be infected with a spirit of narrow and illiberal distrust. On the other hand, it will be equally forgotten that the vigor of government is essential to the security of liberty, that in the contemplation of a sound and well-informed judgment, their interest can never be separated, and that a dangerous ambition more often lurks behind the specious mask of zeal for the rights of the people than under the forbidden appearance of zeal for the firmness and efficiency of government. History will teach us that the former has found a much more certain road to the induction of despotism than the latter, and that those men who have overturned the liberties of republics, the greatest number have begun their career by paying an obsequious court to the people, commencing demagogues and ending tyrants. Obsequious court to the people. Is this like a obedient or attentive to the excessive or servile nature? A lot of feelings, emotions, and passions can run hand in hand, like good things and bad things can run hand in hand. There are some people who might use who might use arguments of free speech to spread lies. There might be people who say that they have a mask of zeal for the rights of the people, but there could be a dangerous ambition that's lurking behind that, right? In the course of the preceding observations, I have had an eye, my fellow citizens, to putting you upon your guard against all attempts from whatever quarter to influence your decision in a matter of the utmost moment to your welfare by any impressions other than those which may result from the evidence of truth. You will, no doubt, at the same time, have collected from the general scope of them that they proceed from a source not unfriendly to the new Constitution. Yes, my countrymen, I own to you that, after having given it an attentive consideration, I am clearly of opinion it is your interest to adopt it. I am convinced that this is the safest course for your liberty, your dignity, and your happiness. He's basically saying, like, yeah, listen, obviously I'm a biased party. I'm literally a biased party that's writing this. I am in favor of the new Constitution. Just letting you know that right now. Yeah. I affect not reserves, which I do not feel. I will not amuse you with an appearance of deliberation when I have decided. No fake centrism. I frankly acknowledge to you my convictions, and I will freely lay before you the reasons on which they are founded. The consciousness of good intentions disdains ambiguity. I shall not, however, multiply professions on this head. My motives must remain in the depository of my own breast. My arguments will be open to all and may be judged by all. They shall at least be offered in a spirit which will not disgrace the cause of truth. I propose in a series of papers to discuss the following interesting particulars: the utility of the Union to your political prosperity, the insufficiency of the present Confederation to preserve that Union, the necessity of a government at least equally energetic with the one proposed, to the attainment of this object, the conformity of the proposed Constitution to the true principles of republican government, its analogy to your own state constitution, and lastly, the additional security which its adoption will afford to the preservation of that species of government, to liberty and to prosperity. So basically, the arguments are going to be, your current confederation sucks, okay? I'm going to argue that you have an insufficient present confederation that does not preserve a union that's necessary, that will be able to act as energetically as the one that he's proposing, okay? That the attainment of the current object it coincides with the true principles of republican government, and it's analogous to all of the state constitutions, which the people obviously like. They're the constitution of every state. And then the additional security will be granted basically to the country if everybody adopts the current constitution. It'll make everybody's lives better insofar as that it secures more liberty and prosperity, right? Or property, sorry. In the progress of this discussion, I shall endeavor to give a satisfactory answer to all the objections which shall have made their appearance that may seem to have any claim to your attention. It may perhaps be thought superfluous to offer arguments to prove the utility of the Union, a point, no doubt, deeply engraved on the hearts of the great body of the people in every state, and one which it may be imagined has no adversaries. But the fact is that we already hear it whispered in the private circles of those who oppose the new Constitution that the 13 states are of too great extent for any general system, and that we must of necessity resort to separate confederacies of distinct portions of the whole. So basically, like, I'm sure like a lot of us are thinking like, man, we're a union, you know, we're so cool. We're beating the British and all this cool shit. But I mean, like, in terms of being a strong whole country, I don't know, will all the states be on board with it? Apparently, they feel like not everybody is on board with that. This doctrine will, in all probability, be gradually propagated till it has votaries enough to countenance an open avowal of it. For nothing can be more evident to those who are able to take an enlarged view of the subject than the alternative of an adoption of the new Constitution or a dismemberment of the Union. It will therefore be of use to begin by examining the advantages of that Union, the certain evils, and the probable dangers to which every state will be exposed from its dissolution. This shall accordingly constitute the subject of my next address. The opening Federalist paper is essentially Hamilton introducing himself as someone who is openly supporting the Constitution. He warns people that many arguments will be made on both sides, both in favor and against, that will be made, I don't know, that's repetitive, be made both in favor and against a stronger union, and to warn against people assuming bad intentions by either side, but also to be careful as good things can hide bad intentions. I don't know, it's pretty general, pretty vague, pretty whatever. Okay.